Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the AfriNuke podcast. On this podcast, we talk about different aspects of nuclear technology and allied energy sources and how it affects the African continent using the African voice. And on today's episode, we have Caleb Isoe from Hydrogen Africa, who is here to tell us different aspects of how green hydrogen can be derived and its relationship with nuclear energy here in Nairobi in the sidelines of the USANES Summit, the second edition. Once again, I want to show our appreciation to Matt Meyer and Emil Jacob for their support for hosting the AfriNuke podcast on the hosting platform. So, Mr. Calebson, it's been nice interacting with you and knowing who and what you do. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Thank you very much. Good to really have a podcast conversation. The very first time I'm having a debut in a podcast in a face-to-face, and from West Africa. So interesting, actually. So I'm so enchanted. So my name is Calebson Isoe. Can say I'm biracial because I'm Kenyan and South African as well. So right now, professionally, from my undergraduate, I've done renewable energy. Right now, in many part of Africa, green hydrogen, just like nuclear energy, has not been in the curriculum. And that is why we as Africans have to do something we call adaptation. We adapt to the current trends in the market. So the current trends in the markets are lobbying into nuclear energy as a source of energy. And green hydrogen is also my field right now. That it happens to be an energy that I'm fronting for the coming future to be a game changer. So I've done energy. My background is also so good. I've done finance, postgraduate. So I can say that I'm trying to leverage economies of scales in energy. Why? Because we're having statistics from all these white guys are selling us that these statistics, I've not done them myself, but what is out there in the public domain? The public gallery is saying that 600 million people in Africa are lacking energy. It's a figure that really pokes conscious to me. I feel so sad that we are living amongst us, people in every country in Africa, they are lacking energy. And why? Because of how much money, capital intensiveness that is used in energy practices, energy activities across Africa. That is why people are yet to receive energy. So the best and quick way we can leverage economies of scale for production of a kilowatt per hour, a kg used in production of hydrogen, that is the quick way in which our people can access energy. So that is my background. I can talk a lot, but these are podcasts, so you must be very quick actually to synchronize what is supposed to be said and what is not supposed to be said.
So can you tell us a bit about Hydrogen Africa? That's the organization you are representing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you do and what is Hydrogen Africa, please?
So thank you. Now, Hydrogen Africa is a part of, I can say, is a portfolio of entities and multinationals. First of all, let me give the originality of Hydrogen Africa. It's not African oriented. It's a company from London and Paris. It has headquarters in London. That's also part of its headquarters in Paris. Lastly, just the other day in COP28, decided to move be localized our headquarters to Silicon Valley. That is San Francisco in the state of California. Hydrogen Africa is entrenching itself in hydrogen production, green hydrogen production.
Okay.
That is in the European sphere.
Okay.
Hydrogen Africa, in an African context, it hasn't started or kicked out the production of green hydrogen. Okay. Why? Number one, because of the legislation process of many African countries. Let me remind you that we have only 6 countries in Africa that are actually the governments and republics, states and governments. 6 of them, 6 countries alone. This is South Africa, we have Namibia, we have Mauritania, we have Kenya, we have Egypt and Algeria. 6 countries that are actually practicing green hydrogen. Okay. So that is why the uptake is also very slow. Yeah. I want to say that Hydrogen Africa, in an African context, because this is what I want to speak for. I don't want to speak about the European because this podcast is specifically African. Hydrogen Africa, in an African context, first of all, it wants to entrench itself in green hydrogen production.
Okay.
But you know what? We can't just amorph ourselves today and want to produce it today.
Yeah.
We want to do, first of all, what you call sensitization.
Okay.
Public sensitization.
Yeah.
The public sensitization in Africa is something that still pokes a lot of questions because the public is usually not involved.
Yeah.
Is what we do. What we call public sensitization is more of close meetings with governments, and the deal is done.
Yeah.
Now, people in Africa, unlike nuclear, that is a summit here, nuclear energy is having public sensitization in two phases.
Okay.
Theirs is a reverse. What green hydrogen Africa is doing, green hydrogen strategy in African context, is that we are introducing new terms to them.
Okay.
It's a learning context of them knowing new energy called green hydrogen. For nuclear energy, it's for them to, for the stakeholders in nuclear energy, their work is actually to kill the gray areas.
Okay.
What you call try to cut down the misinformation and disinformation that is in an African context about nuclear energy. But on the flip side, green hydrogen, what we are doing is that we are taking people to class to learn new concepts. But nuclear energy, the work is to how was are people knowing? Because in an African context, people are knowing. They hear nuclear, they say Japan. They say Hiroshima. They say Nagasaki. They say we don't want that.
Sure.
African people, we are peaceful people. You see, it's a lot of misinformation and disinformation between us. But in the real side, nuclear energy is an energy that we can embrace.
Okay.
Now, that is what green hydrogen is doing.
Okay.
I could have popped into a question that I saw there, but I want us to get there.
Okay.
I could have stretched further to get there, but I could really want to know.
No problem. Thank you so much. I see how passionate you are about Africa and how she can meet her energy needs. And that makes me to kind of want to know, because people talk about green hydrogen. What is hydrogen used for? Why hydrogen? There are other sources. So
good question.
Can you tell us? Because I am also not too knowledgeable about it.
Good question. Good question. Now, hydrogen, everybody else knows it. Hydrogen as a gas is the most abundant element in the atmosphere.
Okay.
It's the first in the periodic table.
Yes.
It's the most abundant. Now, we have types. That is green hydrogen, and you can realize we categorize hydrogen in consideration to colors.
Okay.
We have. Let me now begin like somebody who is beginning from zero.
Okay.
We have something we call gray hydrogen.
Okay. Gray.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have
between
gray
black
hydrogen
and white, right?
Yeah. We have gray hydrogen.
Okay.
We have something called pink hydrogen.
Pink. Wow.
Yeah. We have black hydrogen.
Interesting.
We have something called turquoise hydrogen.
Wow.
Now, let us begin with gray hydrogen.
Okay.
Gray hydrogen is the common hydrogen that now is, that is the common hydrogen in the market.
Okay.
Let me put it in a way that people can understand.
Okay.
That is the common hydrogen in the market.
Yes.
Right? The gray hydrogen is, how do we obtain it? We obtain it by disintegrating or cutting down a process called the SMR, steam methane reforming process, whereby we subject fossil fuels to a lot of heat. Then we collect hydrogen. For example, we have methane. When we burn methane, there is a CH4. Right? You see that? CH4. So when we can CH2, CH4, CH16, C2, H6. Right? You see that? When we burn that. So I was saying, people are asking, why green? Why green hydrogen? Why is it that must be green? Has air been green anymore? Such question, I understand them. Let me say that we categorize hydrogen according to colors. We have gray hydrogen, we have black hydrogen, we have pink hydrogen, we have turquoise hydrogen. Let me begin with what we call gray hydrogen. Gray hydrogen is the most common, is the most prevalent in the market as I speak today. You go to the US, you go to China, you go to Japan, the most advanced economies, the OSD, all OSD countries are producing gray hydrogen. Let me begin with the US. In the US, they produce gray hydrogen through a process called the SMR, the steam methane reforming process. The steam methane reforming process is whereby we have a chemical called CH4 or C2H6, whereby you subject the methane to a lot of heat. And now you collect, you disintegrate the CH4, then you collect hydrogen. This process is counterproductive. It has been always there. But now scientists, there is innovation in the market.
Yes.
Scientists are realizing that this process emits a lot of carbon dioxide because you remember there is a sea there.
Yes.
It emits a lot of carbon dioxide,
Yes.
actually twice than the hydrogen that we collect.
Wow.
So this process is actually counterproductive.
Yeah.
Now, and the carbon dioxide is the one that we are fighting from the atmosphere.
Yes.
We don't want it anymore.
Sure.
The global economy,
Yeah.
the United Nations Environmental Program,
Yeah.
the United Nations Framework for Convention on Climate Change, the one that organizes COPs, is saying that we need to reach a goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2050. So all these efforts are being put together by, first of all, attacking the gray areas. So which kind of gray areas? First of all, the gray area is we have something called the production of green hydrogen, and green hydrogen happens to be producing a lot of carbon dioxide, so we have to attack it. Secondly, let me speak about something called blue hydrogen. Blue hydrogen is an example, is more of an advanced method of gray hydrogen. In blue hydrogen, we use the methane, then we subject it to a lot of heat. So in this heat, we don't release, because remember in gray, we release the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere.
Yes.
And we collect the hydrogen.
Yeah.
In blue hydrogen, we don't do that.
Okay.
When we subject a lot of methane to heat,
Yeah.
so we collect the carbon dioxide
Okay.
in a process called carbon sequestration.
Sequestration. Okay.
So carbon sequestration, we collect it, and sometimes it's buried in the ground, sometimes it's stored, right? And we collect the carbon dioxide. Let me come to something called pink hydrogen. Pink hydrogen is a process where we obtain hydrogen through the use of nuclear energy, right? I think you can see the nexus now of nuclear power plants.
Yes.
The energy that we use in obtaining this hydrogen called pink,
Yeah.
or pink or purple,
Okay.
or black, is through the process called from the energy. The energy is from nuclear power plants.
Fantastic.
The process called the SMRs, the small modular reactors.
Okay.
I think you can see there are 2 SMRs there.
Yes.
Now let me come to another type of hydrogen called turquoise.
Okay.
Turquoise hydrogen is whereby we are using we're using these fossil fuels.
Okay.
We subject them to heat.
Okay.
Now these fossil fuels will release a carbon that is so black, right? This turquoise will release a carbon that is so black. So this black carbon is usually in solid form. The solid form of this carbon is the one that is used in making tires.
Okay.
So the car tires, these black car tires, the one for example, ExxonMobil and the likes,
Yes.
Auto Express, you've seen Auto Express,
Yes.
those black tires,
Yes.
they got it from this process called turquoise. That's why actually when we burn tires, there's a lot of carbon dioxide.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of it.
That's a good one. Now let me finalize with saying green, so that you can see the goodness of having this.
Yes.
People don't forget green hydrogen. Why green? So green hydrogen is a process. First of all, we have something called water electrolysis.
Yes. Yes.
Water electrolysis is whereby we use energy
Yes.
to disintegrate water. Then we obtain oxygen and hydrogen. It's
Yes.
more of a traditional method. It's been so retrogressive for so long. We have a new method of obtaining this that is now replacing water electrolysis called a PEM,
Okay.
called a proton exchange membrane,
Okay.
where it's quick and also it uses few amount of water to obtain the large amount, a good number amount of hydrogen. Green, why? Why green? Because the energy that we are using to obtain hydrogen in this process, be it in water electrolysis or be it in PEM, is from a clean source. Which clean source? It's from a renewable energy source.
Wow.
This process is going to be there. Why? It's not going to in any way hinder the environment. Number one, we have solar. Is the solar going to hinder the environment? No. We have wind power. Is it going to hinder the environment? No. We have hydro. Is it going to hinder the environment? No.
Okay.
So this energy.
We could also use electricity from nuclear power plants.
Now we add also nuclear.
Okay.
Are they going to hinder the environment? No. So this energy, once it's compacted together, then we subject it for water electrolysis.
Yeah.
The hydrogen that we obtain from this process,
Yeah.
we call it green hydrogen.
Wonderful.
I think everybody
I am being schooled and educated.
Yeah, I
today,
think
and
now people in the
appreciate it.
podcast can understand that.
Yeah, that's really, really nice. So, this brings me to you. I wanted to ask you about the parallel between hydrogen and nuclear, but you have just made it very clear right
Yeah.
now that nuclear can be used to split the hydrogen and oxygen
Yeah.
atoms to get the hydrogen out of it. And
Yeah.
so, what effort is being made to utilize hydrogen in Africa's development right now as it stands?
Oh, good question. That's a good question. Now, once you see this project, this process, green hydrogen for an African context, and the government that are in power, and the ministries of energy in all these African countries,
Yeah.
happens to be a new kid on the block.
Yes, it is.
But really, deep down, it's not a new kid. But for an African context, for an African boy, an African youth, I understand, it's a new kid in the block. Now, first of all, we want to tell our own story,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So for green hydrogen, first of all, green hydrogen is used in EVs, electric
Yeah.
vehicles. You go
Yes.
to China, there's electric vehicles that are being powered by green hydrogen. You go to Japan,
Yes.
they are there. Actually, in the US, there are also many of them.
Wow.
Coming to an African context, you realize that we are not ready for EVs,
Okay.
aren't we? No.
Similarly. Yeah.
We could be ready, but the environment where we are right
Yeah,
now,
sure.
we are not ready. It's true. We cannot lie to ourselves.
Okay.
We are not ready. If we cannot have roads everywhere, are we ready for EVs? We are not ready for EVs. So what works best for us? What works best for us is what we do best. Isn't we do best in agriculture? So we have something called harmonizing, what you call harnessing green hydrogen to green ammonia. So the green ammonia that we are harnessing from green hydrogen is
Yeah.
the one that we are using to make green fertilizers,
Wow. Fantastic.
right?
Yes.
So the green fertilizers. And Matthew, let me tell you this. Why fertilizers? Because agriculture has always been the linchpin for African countries.
Yeah.
But we find that most of African countries are using a huge cut, a huge chunk of their revenue to actually import what you call fertilizers from the likes of Ukraine. Many countries I can mention. Apart from machinery, actually, you can conduct your study. Apart from machinery, the second most important thing to Africa is fertilizers.
Wow.
Apart from machinery.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
The second most important thing is
So
fertilizers.
this is like bringing it home.
Yeah. So we are trying to bring this thing home. So fertilizers are imported. Some of these fertilizers, we are not there when they are being manufactured.
Yeah.
We don't know which crop they protect. We don't know which crops they really are ready to be applied to.
Yeah.
Secondly, our soils are different from their soils.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So why are we using their fertilizer? But we are using it anyway because we found ourselves in this situation. We cannot deny.
Yeah.
It's true, we are using them. So green hydrogen for green ammonia fertilizers. And and remember that this green is actually devoid of any what you call
Carbon.
hampering the environment in
Yes.
any way. I must say this. Somebody will ask a question like, where has this project been set up? How long is it going to take? These are the efforts now that we are doing.
All right. Good.
Like with with Hydrogen Africa. Hydrogen Africa is a partnership with the European Commission.
Okay.
We have a partnership with United Nations Environmental
Okay.
Program, with GIZ.
Okay.
We have a partnership with the what you call Mazda from the
Okay.
UAE.
Yeah.
We have a partnership with the Brussels Hydrogen Council,
Okay.
Tech UK, all these development partners, and many
Yes.
that I've not mentioned, Sasol, mentioned Namibia Hydrogen,
Okay.
I've not mentioned Egypt Hydrogen, Algeria Hydrogen Council, the Kenyan Hydrogen Strategy Roadmap.
Wonderful.
We have South Africa Nuclear Energy. We have Namibia Nuclear Council that is being run by very brilliant guys on the other side.
Nice.
We have Mauritania Energy Council, Green Hydrogen Council. All these efforts are being put together so that we can actually leverage on the benefits of having production of green ammonia fertilizers in the continent.
Wonderful.
And it's devoid of which country is going to bag it. Whichever the country that gets it first, all of us are very happy.
Nice.
Because it could be the very first time you're having this. so
very
that
good.
at least one country is safe, then all of us are happy.
Yes.
So these are part of the efforts. I must say also this. There is a question that we arise. Production of green ammonia fertilizers from this process is capital intensive. That's why I mentioned all these partners,
Yes.
all these development partners,
Yes.
stakeholders, so that they can pull in. And the government that are 6 right now, they are ready to collaborate with all these partners so that you can see these projects actually off tech from paper to actualization.
Yeah. That's
So these are part of the effort that are being put in.
Wow. It's been such an enlightening session with you. I am being schooled, and I hope that the listeners as well will get a whole lot of benefits from listening to this episode. As we wind down in this conversation, I understand hydrogen is very abundant, just like you said. But in the nuclear industry, we have a challenge with hydrogen explosion. Now you are producing hydrogen. I understand you want to use it for ammonia production, but in that process, it might also generate an explosive, dangerous environment. Hydrogen is explosive by nature. Why go with it? Are there any wastes?
Good. So as people in the podcast can hear, you've read the question that hydrogen is explosive by nature.
Yes.
By nature, right? Now let us begin with this. I want to say this so that people in the podcast can get it so clear. Is there any fuel that is not explosive?
Yeah, inflammable. Yeah.
No. Is there? No. All fossil, let us begin with fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are really so flammable in nature. In presence of an oxidant, in presence of the fuel, and also in presence of something we call the ignition source. Like a spark of fire. Now, what is it that fossil fuels are using? Even though it's not that complete phase, there are cases of tankers exploding. There are cases of houses going down on fire. Have we stopped using fossil fuels?
No.
There are cases of huge multi-billion-dollar ignition fossil fuel plants going down on fire. Have we receded and said now we are going to relinquish our hopes on fossil fuels and start something new?
No.
There has always been a way, an innovation of actually making sure that these risks are being actually liberalized. How best are we going to live actually with these fossil fuels amongst us? How best? Let me begin by saying about hydrogen. Hydrogen is actually 14% lighter than air and 57% lighter than gasoline. So that means that hydrogen is actually so flammable and it can spread so quickly. Thirdly, hydrogen, it burns in an invisible flame. So this invisible flame, one of the actually technologies that have been done is that there is what you call a flame detector. In all the hydrogen plants. So it's easy to detect it. That is one of the key items that have been done. Secondly, is that the PEM process, that is the new kid on the block, the proton exchange membrane, the whole of that value chain has been actually been made to be so strict for any leakages, because one of the main problems we'll have with hydrogen and the people operating is the leakages. It's invisible. It burns an invisible flame. So what we want to do is that how quick can this flame detector tell that there is a leakage, there is a joint here that is actually not working properly. Another thing is that even the metals that are being used for green hydrogen transportation have been also designed specifically for green hydrogen.
Wonderful.
So we are not going to use anything else that fossil fuels are using because they'll corrode. They'll cause explosions.
Are there any wastes in the process of producing hydrogen?
Now, good question. Once we burn green hydrogen as a fuel, first of all, hydrogen is a gas. When we burn the hydrogen, we subject it to ignition. What we find, the byproduct we find is actually water vapor.
Water vapor,
So this water vapor, actually, scientists are saying that it can be used as drinking water once we apply some little bit of salt.
Interesting.
So that is the only byproduct.
Nice. Nice.
not carbon.
So it is environmentally friendly.
Yeah, it's environmentally friendly.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Unlike other fossil fuels,
Not
that,
like any other fossil
are
fuels.
carbon intensive.
Yeah, that are carbon intensive.
Wow, that's really nice. It's been a very educating and insightful time with you, Mr. Calebson. And as we wind down in this conversation, as a way of summary, what key takeaways do you have from this second nuclear Africa-US Nuclear Energy Summit? And what kind of thing do you hope that the participants in this summit and maybe those who are listening to this podcast will come to appreciate about what Hydrogen Africa stands for and also what nuclear stands to benefit the whole community?
That's a good question there. First of all, my takeaways from the USNS second summit in Nairobi is that we are having what you call a deliberate negligency from the stakeholders, the people involved in energy sphere in Africa. Let us speak about Africa because I'm an African. Is that there has been for so long misinformation and disinformation about nuclear energy. I'm not from that field, but I can advocate for it because I'm energy entrenched.
Okay.
Is that there is a lot of misinformation and disinformation actually about nuclear energy.
Yeah.
And the backdrop of this finds itself from the scenario that happened in Japan.
Yes.
What USNS is actually trying to bank on is that how best and how successful is our public participation going to be? Actually, nuclear energy, its public participation is not even a public participation. It's more of schooling people, beginning even government officials. I know government officials in our continent.
Yes.
Some of them are there just because maybe somebody is in power.
Politician.
A politician is in power, so he put his relative there.
Yeah.
Who specifically might
Not know
this
much.
politician? We are not saying that this politician's cousin, nephew should not be in power. Well, let him be in power. We have no problem with that. But put him appropriately where he deserves. If somebody deserves to be in area where he's supposed to be waste management in a local area,
Yeah.
in a market, don't put him in an energy field.
Yeah.
If somebody is supposed to be in a finance field,
Yeah.
why are you taking him to a field that is encompassing medicine for him to be at the chair of medicine? So I'm saying this why? Because the people that are now coming up with the nuclear processes in Africa are going to meet government officials who will say no to this process, who will say we don't want to hear anything like this. But in the real sense, this energy is so crucial for us to reach the goals that Africa wants to reach. And I must say this, many people will ask you, maybe in the comment section, why should we decarbonize yet we are just 3%? Well, we are releasing 3%. All I can say this question is that that's a very good question. But again, so you want us to get to 90 to start decarbonizing? I feel that the 3% is to our advantage. Because these people who are from the global north, they have actually to pay in for what we are going through, for the unprecedented climate changes that we are feeling. And that is
damage.
And the damages. And that is what has been being advocated in the recent COP28 that I was held in Dubai about the LDF, the Loss and Damage Fund, right?
Yes, yes.
We also have, right now, as I'm speaking here, people are going to COP29, and there is a new roll off the tongue moniker called this new collective quantified goal.
Wow.
That is something close to $100 billion. And all this Africa group, the Africa Troika, and the Pacific are saying that we want to tell the rest of the world that for so long, we Africans have been at the brunt.
Yes.
We've been at the receiving end.
Yes.
That we are not receiving all these things, and the problem is not us. So that is why I'm saying that part of these efforts actually is integrating nuclear energy for him, because people cannot finance what they don't see.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? There is a lot of land in Africa. There is a lot of land that is far away and is not human settlement. People can try this project there. And actually, this thing, what is good is nuclear, It's not like these vaccines we were given where people have not been vaccinated, they are being taken to Africa, let us try with them. No, that is not the case. They're having their nuclear there. You go to the US, they have a nuclear.
Yeah.
South Africa have a nuclear.
Yeah, that's true.
South Africa have a nuclear. So it's something that is equivalent with us. It's living within us. It's not just to embrace it.
Yeah.
Embrace it. That is the most key highlight I'm taking from it. Another thing, secondly, I want to say this. So people will ask you, so where is nuclear? I did finance. I did economics and statistics. I'm a medical practitioner.
Yeah.
I did human resource from my undergraduate. How am I going to, because I'm not the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is the curriculum.
Sure.
So part of the efforts is that I think Ghana is introducing, actually, they have a nuclear, more of a nuclear school for where somebody can obtain a certificate to be operating, to be legalized, to operate in a nuclear field.
Yes.
Notwithstanding what you did, if you are ready, and there is nothing that is impossible, right? If you are ready, you can take. And the same protocol is being signed here in Nairobi, and the government is trying to take up the process that the US is going to finance and set up a school where postgraduate or undergraduates can join in and learn about energy, the technicalities about it.
Yeah.
And people will get now fresh graduates. Another thing is that you can see in Ghana, for example, where this program began, is that we are having people who are finding scholarships.
Yeah.
They might not be sufficient, but there are people who always find their avenues abroad and trying to get the technical so that they can come back again to spread the information and to teach the people that are within us. That is the best in which we can go. And also the governments now are being involved. Now the government is ready. You know, when you sign a protocol declaration, is that the government is ready to nod and say that this process, we can actually now integrate these graduates to our ministries of energy, to energy field, the private sector. And I want to laud all the private sectors. The private sectors, we had the Association of Manufacturers from Ghana here. And that is a private sector, right? And that is a private sector. So the private sector is actually taking in what you call the sensitization, also the production of green hydrogen, because we don't want the government to do what in economics we call crowding out, where the government is the only one that is doing nuclear energy and it ends up setting its own prices, right? There is nobody who knows how much kilowatt it used in production. So the private sector can also be working in nuclear energy to keep the government in check.
Yes, that's true.
Those are the three efforts I could say
you've given us a very compound takeaway, and I hope that our listeners will be able to digest it. It's been very, very educative. It's very informative, very insightful listening to you, and I want to say a very big thank you for sparing your time to converse with us on AfriNew podcast. Hopefully we will have some other time to talk in the near future. So I want to say asante sana.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Calebson. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.